Welcome to day 2 of poetry. So last time we met, we talked about those elements of poetry, those stanza, lines, um, rhythm, meters, mood, all those wonderful things. So today we're going to be talking about different kinds of poems. So let's get started. So the first one we're going to talk about is the five senses poem. So a five senses poem is usually 6 lines long and it doesn't rhyme. And they don't really, they spend most of the time using like or as, which are similes. So they're comparing it to something else. So for example, they use fall. Fall is orange. So the first line is they chose a topic and described it with one word. So fall is orange. It tastes like apple cider. It sounds like kids jumping in leaves. Smells like pumpkin, warm pumpkin. It looks like it makes me feel. So it uses all of those senses. So obviously when we're talking about a five senses poem, we're using our five senses. So they also have Hawaii. Hawaii is blue. It tastes like shaved ice. It sounds like waves crashing on the beach. It smells like plumeria flowers. It looks like a dream home. It makes me feel happy. So this is a really great choice if you like to talk about how you're feeling and your emotions, or not your emotions, but your senses. This is a really good one, but remember this one doesn't rhyme. So if you do like rhyming, I wouldn't choose this one. Okay. This is probably my favorite poem. So an acrostic poem is where you select one word and each letter in that word becomes a line in the poem. So for example, the first one that they chose is donuts. So that means each of the lines had to start with the next letter. So D-O-N-U-T-S. Delicious morning treats. Only good the first day. Need a cold glass of milk with them. Usually like chocolate donuts with sprinkles the best. Tastes like a little bit of heaven, super sweet, once in a while treat. When you're doing an acrostic poem, the lines that you use for those letters have to make sense with the poem. So each of those lines we're talking about, deli meats or dancing. They were talking about a donut. So be very cautious when you do choose an acrostic poem that it has to be about something, or each of the lines has to correspond with the word you chose. They also did ocean. Octopus swims near the rocks. Crab crawls on the sand. Eel slithers in a sea cave. Angelfish swims gracefully under the waves. Narwhal hunts for fish in the Arctic. So again, all of those lines correspond with ocean. This is honestly, personally, my favorite one. Next one is an alliteration poem. So alliteration is when we use the same first letter for almost every word. So for this one, you kind of have to pick a letter that's very common. So don't use like X, Q, things like that. Those are really hard to do an alliteration poem with. But T's, G is usually a good one, C. So you basically, each word in the poem has to start with that letter. Again, not every word, but most of the words. So for the S poem, 7 silly southern seamstresses sewed 60 silky strands of silk for the superbly styled soccer star shirt. You can see there's all that sound throughout it. My T poem. 2 terrific tigers tried to trudge tiredly to Texas to take trays of tacos and tamales to 10 tremendous turkeys. Another one. When you're doing an alliteration poem, it still has to flow like a normal sentence. It just has to have that T sound. So it shouldn't just say like 2, 12, tent. It can't just be like words put together. It's got to have like a sentence flow to it. Okay, next one is a Cinquain poem. Cinq means 5 in French, and Cinquain is a poem with 5 lines. So a Cinquain poem has to have 5 lines to it. And so the first line is one word subject of a poem, so a noun. The second line is 2 words to describe that title. The line 3 is 3 ing words that show an action. Line 4 is 4-word phrase that expresses a feeling, and line 5 is 1-word synonym for the subject. So line 1, they chose mouse. That's the noun. The 2 words to describe it are tiny and fast. The 3 ing words, it's scurrying, it's sniffing, it's squeaking. Again, it's describing the mouse. Forward phrase that expresses a feeling. Looking for some cheese. What is happening? How is that? What's going on? And then a synonym. What's another word for mouse? Rodent. Shoes. The next one. Shoes. Comfortable and old. You're using for walking, running, jumping. You wear them almost everywhere. And then another word is sneakers. So that's what a Cinquain poem is. Next one is a haiku. This is another one of my favorite poems, but this one's a little bit trickier to create. So a haiku is an ancient form of poetry that comes from Japan. These 3-line poems deal with nature and feelings about the natural world. Each line of a haiku is not a complete sentence, but is in a simple phrase. Just like the previous one, not all poems have to have a full sentence. Some of them can be just one word for each line. So haiku poems must be written following a syllable pattern. The number of words is not as important as the number of beats per line. So what that means is when you're making a haiku, we call it 5-7-5. So the first line has to have 5 syllables. So that means how many times am I clapping? So let's look at the first one. Hummingbird, chirping in the trees. Chirping in the trees. Chirping in the trees. 5 syllables. The second line is 7 syllables. In mid-air with beating wings. In mid-air with beating wings. 7 syllables. And then the last one is again 5 syllables. Tiny precious bird. Tiny precious bird. There are 5 syllables. So a haiku has to have 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. So waves. Curling blue water, splashing at the sandy shore, beautiful ocean. Mountains, reaching to the sky, birds singing in the pine trees, home for animals. Notice how, again, they're not, it doesn't matter they're not looking for how many words. It shouldn't be 5 words, then 7 words, then 5 words. It has to have 5 syllable beats, 7 syllable beats, and 5 syllable beats. And they're also not complete sentences, so. A number poem. Number poems are 10 lines long and can rhyme, but they don't have to. You can choose to, you don't have to. And basically, you count 1 through 10 and write something. So, candy shop, 1 rainbow lollipop, 2 pink cotton candies, 3 yellow gumballs, 4 huge jawbreakers, 5 golden brown caramels, 6 sweet chocolate bars, 7 pieces of red licorice, 8 green apple hard candies, 9 sour gummy worms, 10 kids at the counter. So, you're counting basically, but you can also go backwards. You don't just have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is what the solar system one does. 10 asteroids floating through space, 9 stars twinkling in the night sky, 8 planets revolving around the sun, 7 satellites hovering over Earth, 6 comets zooming around the sun, 5 moons circling Pluto, 4 constellations sparkling nightly, 3 astronauts waiting to take off, 2 rovers searching for signs of life, 1 sun shining in our solar system. So notice how all of the lines are still connected to each other to the theme of candy shop or solar system. So if you're making a poem 1 through 10 or a number poem, don't just kind of say, 1 Game Boy, 1 shoe. It's good. It has to have a same common theme. Next one is a pyramid poem. If you can kind of guess, a pyramid poem is a poem that looks like a pyramid. So line 1, again, it's similar to what we did before. 1 is a noun. The line 2 is 2 adjectives that describe that noun. 3 ing verbs, and then 2 short phrases or a question. It's very, very similar to the previous poem that we did. I believe it was the Cinquain. Very similar to that, except this one is just, it's formed differently. If you notice, they designed it so it looks like a pyramid. So, horse, strong and graceful, trotting, cantering, galloping, beautiful creature, lovely to ride. Baseball, fun, exciting, throwing, batting, catching, American sport, great game. Notice how those don't matter about the beats or anything. It's mostly the look of the poem. It's not necessarily what's in it. But again, all of the lines are connected to what this poem's about. Another one is a shape poem. As you can probably tell, a shape poem is a poem that's in a specific shape. Sometimes they're called concrete poems. The first way is to draw an object and write a poem inside of it. Sometimes people actually write the poem with the shape, like how the shape is. So if you do choose, this one probably won't be one you'll be able to do on your Google Form quiz because it's not going to come out in a shape form. But if you want, you can message me on Dojo. If you did choose to do this one, you can message me a picture of you doing a shape poem if you do choose to do that. And each of the poems has to do with that shape. A box is one of the best toys in the world. It can be a pirate ship floating on the blue seas or a spaceship ready to blast off into space. A box lets your imagination take flight. The moon smiled at me as I said goodnight at the end of the day. Cocoa on a winter day is like sunshine warming my soul. It has to do with the shape that you've been given. Okay, next one is a triplet poem. A triplet poem, if we know anything about triplets, triplets mean 3. So it has 3 lines, which normally rhyme. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump over the candlestick. That one's got a nice flow to it, has 3 lines. Not all the lines necessarily rhyme, but that's okay. Most of them do, that's okay. The little gray cat, asleep on the mat, dreaming of a rat. That one, all of those end with a rhyme. The bee, up in a big tree, buzzed a busy bee, making some honey. Again, can have all of them rhyming, can have part of them. The great big bear was unaware a wolf was there. Another great one. So that is all the different kinds of poems that you can actually create. When you go onto your Google form, there's going to be directions. You get to pick which one you want to create. If for any reason you got confused and want to review how to do those poems, rewatch the video and kind of pick which one you kind of met with a little bit better. Remember, if you're struggling to put it into your Google form quiz, I would just say type in "will send in Dojo" or something like that into that. That way I know to go and look in my Dojo and find your picture. If you can't, that's only if you can't put your poem into Google Forms. I want you to try to do that first. If you have any problems, just let me know. So I look forward to reading all your cool poems. This is probably one of my favorite units because you can be really creative. So I want to see my really creative students. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.